Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Zen Blonde podcast. It's your girl, Lauren, and today I'm joined by one of my dear friends. She is an amazing Instagrammer, TikToker. She's known for doing incredible deep dives, and currently she has become the go-to source for the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, which we're going to be diving into today. You may know her as the Talk of Shame, but I know her as Kiki Monique and the Talk of Shame. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. I feel like I'm surprised you're able to come up for air at all, because I feel like your entire life is basically like being in the courtroom of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but like you're really in LA.
Yeah, and I will say that it benefits me that I'm in LA and this is an East Coast trial because I can wake up early. I'm a morning person. And so I can be done by the afternoon. I don't have to, it's not like a 10 to 5 thing. So at least I have half of my day where I can get other things done.
So the timing of this new job that you've unintentionally taken on is beneficial to you.
It is. I mean, it's not beneficial to like my mental health or my regular health because I don't move for 7 hours a day, but it's for the people and for myself. Let's be
And the
real.
people are loving it. You've like absolutely, like, I feel like been the number one person I go to for coverage, because you really just give us like the information that's out there, the video footage that's out there. You're like conveying the trial in a way that to me feels really fair and unbiased. And so I love going to your page, because I feel like a lot of other people that are covering it are super biased and, um, you know, have an opinion one way or the other. Whereas I feel like when I go look at your story, I'm like, oh, I'm just getting like the best parts of the trial. And there have been a lot of laughs for this trial. It's actually unbelievable for as serious as it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was like, I think the first week alone, you had like Isaac, you said some really good witnesses that you were like, okay, this is going to be a great trial.
My favorite was the doorman, which if you guys haven't seen the doorman footage, I'm sure it's over on Kiki's reel or Kiki Save Stories. But oh my god, I mean that was just a trip.
Alejandro,
Yes, oh he was my favorite. He was my favorite thing that's happened this entire time. Just
he just set up a TikTok I discovered today. So he has a TikTok. It looks like he's good because I know the last we heard he might have been living in that car that he was doing the deposition from. But he's got a TikTok now. It looks like he's getting a lot of followers, so hopefully he's doing well.
oh, he's definitely getting one more from me. And if you didn't watch the trial, you guys, there was this guy who was the doorman for Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and he literally was vaping. He also pulled away in his vehicle, and he was like, "We all have problems. Like, I'm so sick of this trial." And the courtroom was laughing. The judge was like, "I've never seen anything like this." Like, it was crazy. But like, Kiki, you since you've been covering this so deeply, like, where are you at? And like, what's kind of your opinion of like where things have been and where things are going, and like just like how you make sense of this whole hot mess?
Well, the thing is, Amber is just starting her witness testimony now. So, obviously we've heard all of Johnny's witnesses, which we have to kind of pick apart the people who were on his payroll. Like, while they may be believable, you almost want to parse those out, which is why I sort of evaluate them based on like, what are they getting out of this and how believable are they? Which is why Alejandro, even though he was in his car driving around with no seatbelt and vaping, he was actually the most believable witness Johnny had. You know, a lot of the expert witnesses obviously are going to sway towards Johnny's side. So now that we're going to start seeing Amber's expert witnesses, it will be interesting to see how they tell the story differently from Johnny.
Absolutely. And I think, we've really only heard one side of the story, because we really only have heard the people that are, vouching for Johnny. And, the way that I've seen this entire trial is it seems like there's bad stuff on both sides. Like both parties have behaved badly. Um, where I don't think anyone's going to come out a winner in any of this. I mean, what do you think, like, the conclusion will be based on the information you have now? Because things could completely change once Amber takes a stand.
It was interesting some of the testimony we saw from the people who were experts in like Johnny's losses, his damages to his revenue ever since this op-ed piece came out by Amber. And sort of what was shown was like, I don't think we'll be able to really tie, at least I personally, if I was in the jury, don't think I could tie his $40 million in losses directly to the op-ed because there were so many other things happening between 2016 and 2018, right? You could put a lot of things on why he was losing money, on top of the fact that, look, he's an aging actor and there's a lot of new actors coming around. He was making less money when we just look at how much he was making his money he was making in 2011 to 2020. It's significantly different. So while I think this case will be very hard for him to win, and I don't think either of them will come out a winner, I think his career might actually get a boost from this because he has a lot of supporters. It's very clear online. You go online, it is justice for Johnny. It is people who really want him to tell his side of the story, which he's getting this chance to do. So winners in the case, not so much. He might still come up on top a bit.
Yeah, I've never seen a case regarding a woman with credible information in a domestic violence situation, even at this level of stardom. I have never seen a woman receive the support that I've seen Johnny Depp receive in this case. Like, it is actually unbelievable. Um, and I think that there was, I mean, based on what I've seen, it seems like there was bad behavior on both sides, and maybe it was the last thing that should have been brought to court because both parties kind of don't look the greatest. I mean, Johnny Depp's text messages saying that he like wanted to have Amber's corpse in the back of like his car. Like, there were just certain things that I saw that I was like, okay. And you were obviously struggling with addiction, and there was bad behavior on both sides, but I've never seen the outpouring of support for this man that I've seen for like Johnny Depp's just getting so much support. And I think people are now reporting in a very biased way where they don't even want to consider anything that Amber Heard has to say.
And I think that simply comes from the fact that, you know, obviously when she came forward and, there were bruises and there was these, evidence showing that there was violence, we didn't think about the fact that men could be abused, right? Like, it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't in our realm to ever think that Johnny Depp could have been someone who was a victim of abuse. Now, as we're listening to the trial, and she's admitted that she has punched him, she has you know verbally abused him, that this mutual abuse does exist. Now, I know that the psychiatrist that went on today for Amber says mutual abuse doesn't exist in the therapy community, and so I know there's people on both sides that say that doesn't exist. There's always an aggressor, but clearly there was violence on both sides, and I think that's why we're seeing more of the support for Johnny, because in the beginning he had none of it. We didn't even believe or think that he was a victim.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and I've seen a lot of people that have come forward that are upset about this case be domestic violence survivors who feel like Amber Heard stepping out and like coming forward in this way, and then having done some bad things, like she has now discredited like other DV survivors. And like I don't really know where I land with all of this, but again, like it's like when I look at it, it's just like this whole mess of a situation where I do think that she abused Johnny, and I do think that Johnny did some abusive things towards her too. And then it's that kind of weird reactive abuse conversation that comes up, where it seems like he might have just left the room sometimes in order to not react or something. But again, like it's just so hard for me as a woman to like want to believe that a woman was in the wrong in any situation, and that's why I think it's almost like a little gray in this situation. But I mean, the Milani makeup thing was crazy. Like there was the whole report of her using this specific Milani makeup, which I'm like, Amber Heard like telling us she's using drugstore makeup. I'm just like, yeah, right. Like, you don't have Milani. Like
Yeah,
you have Charlotte Tilbury and like Givenchy and like you have nice like not that like Milani there's anything wrong with it, but like I'm sorry, Amber
I
Heard's
love
not.
Milani. Yeah,
Milani's a great brand, but I find it
I'm
hard to
wearing it
believe.
now.
I love me like some Milani and like even like Wet and Wild, like anything I can find at CVS. Like there's so many good makeup brands. However, I still find it hard to believe that Amber Heard, who's getting these PR boxes, whatever. I'm like you're. You know, you were trying to use this relatable brand. But anyway, they were like, the palette didn't even come out until after this all happened. So this was like a bald faced lie. And then that was just a bad one.
Yeah, but then it like goes back and forth because it's like we saw the Milani, TikTok where they said that this palette that they showed didn't come out until 2017. But then someone contradicted that, and I was kind of like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I don't even know if this particular Milani pack is the one that she was using. And even if it was, the case is about defamation. And I think that that's just what we're going to get to the core of. Now, if they can prove that she was using this makeup case to cover up bruises that weren't there, then okay, that's a different story. But, or make bruises with that, then that's a different story. But
What do you make of like the incompetence that's like kind of being highlighted on the side of like Amber Heard's legal team?
it's so funny because, well, when I listened to the opening statements, I actually thought both sides were just like bumbling idiots almost. Like, you expect that the lead attorneys who are doing these opening statements are going to be suave. We watch enough TV that, yes, it's fake, but like, talking to the jury should be like what the fun part of being a lawyer is, right? That's like what they all look for is that day. And they both felt like just so clunky and like, just get it out, spit it out. Um, but yeah, it's, I sometimes just wonder if it's because there's just so much information. Like, there's so many different, I mean, look, that whole attorney, there's like three lines of attorneys and like they each have all these different witnesses. And all I can see when I look at there is the amount of money that's being spent every single day on the amount of attorneys there. But they have some funny moments. And of course there's attorneys I don't like, Rottenborn. He gets under my skin because he seems like he's kind of a dickhead. The guy who, objected himself kind of has that same sort of like attitude that I don't really like. I think in general, it's just Johnny has like attorneys that are more likable, and so it's easy to poke fun at Amber's attorneys.
I mean, the guy objecting to his own question was just, you could not make that up. You could not make that up. You really couldn't. And then the other layer of this is like there's all this like fan culture with people lining up at like 1 a.m. to like get into this trial because from what I understand, it's like the first. If you're one of the first people to get there, you can get in. And I was listening to a podcast and one of the women on the pod is like there and she's going there every day and she said that Johnny Depp has this super fan named Yvonne who she's a travel agent but she travels around the world wherever Johnny's filming. She inserts herself into that country or wherever he is. And he actually
Wow.
wears a ring she gave him years ago. Like, he knows exactly who she is and everything, but Yvonne is there, and Yvonne apparently is lining up at 1 a.m. to make sure she gets in. So,
That's wild.
the super fan culture of like these situations, like I saw it with Free Britney, is always really, really crazy to see. Um,
Yeah, and I always wonder how, like, I mean, I know the fandom expresses itself in the gallery very easily, but I also think about it when it comes to the jury. Like, obviously they've been like questioned and they've been picked specifically, but at the end of the day, you can't not know Johnny Depp unless you were living under a rock. And so when there's testimony happening, even just from his witnesses, like, today they had the doctor on Amber's side who was basically saying a lot of what Dr. Curry did, who was Johnny's, you know, did the psychological test on Johnny's behalf, contradicting what she said, right? Now, Dr. Curry is like, blonde. She's probably from the OC, younger. And, Amber's therapist is, older, um, maybe not as conventionally attractive. And I sometimes wonder, like, are people going to be able to hear what she says because of these things, right? We still have this, like, misogyny, internalized misogyny. When we see a prettier woman, we might believe her more. And so I just really think about that. Like, I'm trying to see how they're going to weigh these opinions, because these are both brilliant women who have degrees and they're saying completely opposite things. How do I choose who to believe? It has to come back to, like, do I just like them better? Am I more attracted to them, right?
No, absolutely, and I think it really does come into play. Like I have a doctor who's just very matter of fact, and she's a great doctor, but she has no bedside manner. But she's a very competent doctor. I almost didn't go to her because her online reviews were so bad. And I realized that it literally had 0% to do with her competence and everything to do with just like her vibe is like very matter of fact. And she discusses like the points of your blood work with you and then she's done. She doesn't want to like chit chat or whatever. But it's just so funny how like even in the Yelp reviews, like it was so swayed, right? So like little things like can create such like strong biases um, to the point where it's just like it's so hard to know if anyone in the jury could be unbiased. And even just in the case of like, there are these superstars, and like, I find it hard to believe that they're not getting wind of something from the outside world. You know, it would just be so hard to keep it completely clean. Maybe they are, but I don't know. It's just, it's so pervasive. Like, what, I mean, where do you think this jury is? They're probably locked them in a hotel room. It's probably like the O.J.
I don't
Simpson
even
thing.
think so. I think that they might be going home, because the fact that they're being told, don't watch any TV, don't get on social media, like, it feels like they have more freedom, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and at that point, if they are going home, it's like, don't you think like somebody's family member would be like, yeah, you know, Amber, oof. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like it would be impossible to not to contain it that much if people are going home and stuff. So, um,
Yeah, because you'd have to tell the people in your life you're on the jury, which you're not supposed to do. But, like, I'd have to tell everyone, do not talk to me about this because I'm on this case. So if I disappear for 8 hours a day, you'll know why.
and you might as well be at this point because I feel like I can vouch for you being unbiased. Okay, so what do you make of her, like, people alleging that she is wearing similar clothing to him and, like, that whole situation?
I mean, I love all of the sidebar random conversations that happen out of this, because look, this is why I'm following the trial. Like, these are the fun parts. Would it be crazy if it was true? Of course. Will we ever know if it's true? Definitely not. But, like, speculation is a sport.
It speculation is a sport of which you and I are like professional athletes. Um, but like, so I again like I've been like listening to a bunch of TikToks and stuff, and like one of the TikToks was saying like, oh, well, abusers mirror their victims, and so Amber is mirroring Johnny because she abuses him, and I'm just like I don't even know. But that was one of the things that like came up on Psych Talk, if you will, and it's just so crazy, so crazy. Now, do you
If I
know?
could be like an armchair attorney, then armchair therapy, I guess, is allowed.
Yeah, right. I know. I feel like everyone's just getting their therapy off of TikTok. Um,
Yeah.
now I forget what I was just gonna say. Oh yeah. What do you make of the whole like Yorkshire Terrier situation with her shitting the bed before Coachella? Like,
Oh, I mean,
were you just dying that whole time, like just cringing?
well, the whole story's just funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny because it's like the idea of, like, them getting in a fight, her like punching him 4 times, then him leaving, and then her like shitting in the bed, and then going to Coachella. Like, everything about that is crazy.
And then
I will
trying to
say
say the
that,
dogs, like these little micro mini dogs, were the ones that did it.
yeah, I don't believe it was the dogs. I do believe it was Amber or her friend. I do believe that part. Like, because it's just too weird.
It's just such a gross form of revenge that I like when I heard it I was like, "Oh, like that is just so nasty." Like I could never imagine somebody wanting to do that as a form of revenge. And the other thing I
No.
thought was interesting was like the way that they were recording each other. And then like it was like Johnny in a lot of the recordings you can hear him say, "I'm starting to record this now." And then it seemed that like Amber maybe secretly recorded him, and like California is a two-party state, so there was that whole thing. Um, and it felt like maybe the recording happened because they were both gaslighting each other so much that they'd be like, I didn't say that, or at least a lot of people said it was just Amber, but it seems like on both sides it was like they would argue at a later time about something that was said, and then the other party would just say like I didn't say that, and so they wanted that like video evidence, and that's where we got like a lot of this recording because they were recording each other.
Yeah, and their therapist is the one that introduced it and suggested it to them, and that's why you hear, they're both aware the recording is happening because I think that those were the ones that were sort of like mandated, by the couples therapist, but I think they went rogue, and then it started becoming like, well, now I'm just going to capture you because I can tell you're performing for the recordings when you know it's on. So now I just want to like capture you in your real with your real manners and your real attitudes. But I think the only one that seemed to be doing that, it seems, based on what we heard, is Amber. Um, but then I did hear some that I could tell that sounded like Johnny had it on because he wanted to capture her, and she was feeling these were things I don't think she would have revealed if she had known he was recording. So I think a lot of this was so mutual.
Yes, exactly. I feel the same way where I think there's a big support of Johnny, but then I see things where I'm like, wait, why does he suddenly become like this like fucking like Prince Charming because she like may have come forward with like claims that weren't exactly like the full truth, or there was stuff on both sides. And why does he suddenly become Prince Charming? Because I don't think he'd be that pleasant of a person to be in a relationship with based on like what I've heard and seen, like at least at the time that all that was going on.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, his exes haven't explicitly said anything about the relationships, like Winona or, Vanessa, but they have said that they haven't experienced any sort of physical or other sorts of domestic violence while they were with him. So, that says a lot to his character because, obviously it's Winona Ryder and Vanessa was with him for 14 years.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's hard to not believe them. Um, I understand why they would want to protect him, but it's also hard not to believe them. And I also do believe that, Amber, both he and Amber had childhood abuse, and something about each other triggered the both of them when they were together. And I think they just reverted to these like maniacs when they were together. They knew exactly how to set the other one off and would do it when, they felt either, I don't know, threatened or intimidated or mad or sad or, or they were on drugs.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of this volatility came from like, okay, like you got like there's a lot of drug fueled behavior here, alcohol fueled behavior here. Like it just seems like both parties in their own way were kind of spiraling, and like they were just like the worst match ever. Like I wonder if anyone has put their like astrological charts together because I feel like it's like whatever like the worst combination of like it must just be the absolute worst. And like so I don't know. Do you know if Elon Musk has to take the stand? Because I was trying to figure that out today. And like, there's all these other witnesses on the side of Amber, who I think it's like John Mayer, Elon Musk, and like a few other big names.
Yeah, none of those people have to testify. And when Elon was first scheduled to testify, I remember hearing like, oh, because he's not a Virginia resident, um, he doesn't have to. And someone confirmed that, I think a lawyer confirmed that in my DMs, that it's not required. And then subpoenas, I think, only work within the Virginia borders. But yeah, he doesn't have to testify, and I never thought he would. I definitely never thought James Franco would. Paul Bettany was supposed to, but Johnny, they rested his case today and he didn't testify. So that's definitely not happening. I think as celebrities are watching this live happen, this trial, they're just like, I'm backing away. I can't be a part of this.
But poor Alejandro had to go live from his car.
That was a pre-recorded, so like it actually had been recorded like several months before.
Yeah.
But and so they were just playing it for the jury. But yeah, he still had to do it. And it just goes to show too, like how when you have money and access to lawyers, you just know your rights more. And it's like you don't just get a call up from and being like, you need to get deposed, and then you can't be like, screw you, no.
It's so ridiculous, the people that got like pulled into this. And even I think there was like a specific reason he chose Virginia, right?
Well, it mostly had to do with the online version because there was two versions. There was the print version of Amber's op-ed and the online version. The online version went through the servers of the Washington Post, and the servers live in Fairfax County. So he could sue in Fairfax County. And I can't remember if there was another reason about, defamation possibly being easier in Virginia than California. I don't know if that's true, but I know the server part, the fact that the Washington Post servers live in Northern Virginia was.
Yeah, I had read somewhere that they were shopping around like where to do it for a specific reason, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But I guess like for whatever reason, it was just better for them from like a legal standpoint to do this in Virginia. Which I wish they had done it in California, because then you and I would be waking up at 1 a.m. and we would be over in DTLA at
I know, but then if it was in LA, then we would literally be watching the trial in real time, and my 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. schedule every day. Like, how would I get anything in life done?
We would just have to like crowdfund. Like I'm like, why haven't we crowdfunded like a ticket and like ongoing hotel for like the next like few weeks just for you to just be there, because you were like doing the absolute like lord's work with this, and it's just so crazy. The other thing that I forgot to mention was like Amber had this like ex-girlfriend, I guess, that she had an abuse situation with in an airport, so that didn't make her look so good.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really brought it up, which is surprising, and I don't know if it's like was agreed to, but yeah, I mean, she had this she calls her ex-wife. It's spelled like Tasia. I don't really know how you pronounce her name, but like Tasia. I think yeah, they were coming back through an airport in Hawaii, and Amber was arrested, but then I think Tasia later like said no, it didn't happen, and so I don't know if the charges were dropped. So, I'm interested to see when she's on the stand, whether Johnny's attorneys, grill her on those things, or if it's going to be allowed.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I know that I'd heard somewhere that it might not like play into like the whole defamation thing, but what I also heard was like when she was going through the airport, the cop that arrested her, she tried to accuse the cop of being homophobic, and the cop was an openly gay lesbian. Like, so it just like it just didn't work out for her, unless it's like, a self-hating lesbian person. I don't know, like it's just like that didn't hold up at all. It's just such a hot mess, and I genuinely hope that like this doesn't end up being like an Elizabeth Holmes thing where like women in Silicon Valley like have trouble now because Elizabeth Holmes like made them lose credibility because she came forward with this big idea and then like ended up being a fraud. And like, I've heard from people since The Dropout came out, like, oh, like, yeah, that really did impact like women in Silicon Valley. But I hope that this case isn't gonna cast a shadow of doubt on like female domestic violence survivors. And again, like a lot of the people who are really pissed did survive, DV, and are there at the courthouse and are upset about it for that reason.
Yeah, and I know people were bringing up the fact that Marilyn Manson, I think, just sued Evan and Rachel Wood. And it's people were starting to get like, is this going to be a retaliation thing if a woman speaks up and the man doesn't like it? Is he going to take her to court over it? Like, it could get really messy, and we don't want to take steps back, any more steps back than clearly our Supreme Court is trying to do, but like no more steps back.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, literally, we're like hot off the heels of the Met Gala, and then it's just like Roe v. Wade's being overturned, and it's just like it's such a crazy time to be alive in. And I think definitely like in cases of women getting either assaulted or having some sort of violence against them, like I think there are cases where there are those lawyers who represent those kinds of men that really did abuse or assault or whatever, and one of their strategies is to try to turn it around on the woman, which is why like in this case, like if Amber did lie about anything, like you know that's just a terrible terrible thing to do to our society, since all eyeballs are on this case.
Yeah.
We all are focusing on this, and now we have to start looking at other things that are going on too with the Supreme Court, and just like call every representative we can. But
Yeah, and I mean, I'm also curious, like, what's gonna happen with Washington Post. Like, I did see some articles about Johnny, I thought toying with the idea of suing them as part of all of this because, sorry, not Washington Post, but ACLU.
yeah,
Because I think the testimony from the ACLU was some of the most damaging to Amber. Because to find out, they really ghost wrote this and they really were set on using this op ed to like prop her up in conjunction with the movie coming out. It's just not a good look from a charity, right?
no, no, and that was one of the things is like she became this advocate through the ACLU for, I think it was specifically for people who've survived like abuse, and like it it's such a shame because again like there's so many people that like go through these things and aren't believed, that aren't Amber Heard. They're just some random person in a small town where like misogyny is rampant, and a lot of people don't even come forward. um and the more I've listened to this case and stuff, it's like men do get abused too, and like it's very underreported. And like I think one of the things is like if somebody is in a volatile relationship, like in California, if you're throwing things, like that's domestic violence.
Yeah.
Like there's things that like I think people, if I were to hear like a friend of mine got into a really bad fight with their boyfriend and something was like thrown, maybe not in the direction of the person, but I don't know, like would I think that it was okay? Absolutely not. I'd be like really shocked and be like, you need to get out of that. But like that's not the craziest thing in the world. I think people sometimes get into bad fights, but that is considered like a form of domestic violence. It's a form of threat. So like, a lot of these things that were admitted to definitely align with the with abuse on Amber's side, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean Dr. Hughes, who is the clinical psychologist who was the expert witness for Amber, the first witness they called, she, the first 20-30 minutes she spent just going through the different types of abuse because she really wanted the jury to understand like domestic violence isn't just having a black eye. There's psychological aggression, which could be threats or pounding on tables that threaten you enough that you change it. Basically, you change your behavior and change what you're doing because you're intimidated. There's all sorts of um, ways that domestic violence is committed. And so them understanding that is going to be huge for this because that is defining that domestic violence, and whether Johnny has committed that is the crux of this, because the defamation can only come is if she believes that she knew she lied about these things. And if we're saying, well, no, this is proof that this happened and this is what she wrote about, then there is no defamation.
And it's interesting too because I think the Washington Post has come under fire too, because didn't they do that article on Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports.
Oh, did they? I didn't know
I
about
believe it
this.
was them that did that, and they put out an article basically like with a few of his like alleged victims. And I've always kind of like personally been like kind of grossed out by Barstool Sports. I've always found it to be like misogynistic. He had these like blackout parties that like people were encouraged to, get like hammered. He also said like if somebody was a size 6 and wearing like leggings, they deserve to be raped. So he is very problematic, and like anytime it's almost like kind of how I feel about Joe Rogan. Like I don't love Joe
Yeah.
Rogan. I don't love Barstool, and I do have men that I love that like those things, but I do. It's a yellow flag. I'm not gonna lie. It's not a green flag. I'm not gonna call it a red flag. But it's like do you what content of theirs are you consuming? It's just there's undertones in all of that where I just kind of get a little like meh. But the Washington Post, I feel like, has had quite the year of kind of releasing some info, and then it just kind of turning into these big things. And there's so many cases out there, but I don't know if we've ever seen something to this degree that we've had public access to.
No, definitely not. I mean, there we've had plenty of cases that we would love to have had access to, and we did. I mean, Kim Kardashian Black China trial wasn't a public, televised, and um, Ghislaine, we could barely see anything on, her trial. It's the fact that this is so televised everywhere is shocking, but the secret side of me wishes that every trial that was this whole high profile was televised because it's fascinating.
I honestly don't understand why it's not, and I think that it should be, because we would just pick it apart, and like I think that a lot more I think that we would have a greater understanding of the truth, just through the court of public opinion. But I mean, that's what this case really gets, is like regardless of the outcome, like the real outcome is like the court of public opinion, you know
It's true.
like I think that's what's probably going to matter in the end. Because do you even think it's like $50 million at stake? Do you think Amber Heard would even have $50 million like to give Johnny Depp?
No, absolutely not. I mean, she she got $7 million in the divorce settlement that she was supposed to give to ACLU and Children's Hospital. Did not. Um, and you know, her biggest films were what, Aquaman, which I guess we heard she's now been cut down to about 10 minutes in the Aquaman 2 movie. I don't know. I will say that I think her career will be majorly impacted, which is also really interesting from this because, again, like I said, I think Johnny's career will actually get helped out because of
Mm-hmm.
this. And it's so messy.
It is the biggest mess of all time, and I'm just so glad that I have you to go to for just any understanding of this, because I mean, it's just so much. And how much longer do we have left in it?
So the great thing is that I get a vacation next week because Judge Penny had a conference scheduled from like May 9th through 12th. So court is only Monday through Thursday. So next week there's no court. But she told both sets of attorneys that I told this jury that we will be done by Memorial Day weekend, and we will. So even if you aren't done getting through your witnesses, too bad. So I don't know how that plays out though, because the jury, I mean, they can have as long as they want to come up with the verdict, I thought. So is it going to end like a week before? I don't know, but it's approaching fast.
Okay, well that's good to know that you won't be too locked down for too much longer, even though I'm enjoying every bit of this. And like again, like please, like if anyone in the US government is listening, like please televise more trials. But one of my favorite things that you do outside of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is Bagel Fridays. So if you all listening don't follow Kiki, first of all, you should. But second of all, Kiki has like every Friday, her page is dedicated to, well, she does Wordle, but she also always goes and searches. She's searching for the best LA bagel, and I believe Courage Bagels is the one she likes the most. But I'll let her tell us. But it's just like my comfort watch. Like every Friday, I just know that like there's going to be bagel content, and it just really, really just is my safe space.
I'm surprised the amount of people who like tell me they hate watching people eat, but for some reason I make them happy when they do it. And I've been called by multiple people a very polite eater. So it actually like boosts my self-confidence because I'm like, who knew? But yeah, I would say so my two favorites are Courage Bagels and Daughter's Deli. And they're two completely different. Like Daughter's Deli, I would say, is more in the vein of a traditional New York bagel. Whereas Courage is actually a Montreal style bagel. Totally different, but they're both so good.
Oh my god, I've been like looking around for a good LA bagel, and the ones at Farm Shop are pretty good, but you and I are both New Yorkers, so we're very discerning. What's your fave New York bagel, or was it just some random spot in
Well, that's the
Brooklyn?
thing that I love about New York. You could just go to a bodega and
Yep.
they would have a really good bagel. So it was like when I was, in certain parts of Brooklyn, it's like I might go to the Bagel Delight. It was delicious. It was just good bagel.
That's the thing, like you really can't screw up a bagel in New York. Like I don't know. I always had like whatever place was closest to me was where I would just pop in. When I was growing up, we had like specific bagel spots. But each one was as good as the last, so like it didn't really matter. Um, that's so awesome. So Keeks, what else are you up to these days?
Well, I'm doing my podcast. I'm sorry, which is available wherever you get your podcast. Um, you might see me on the Daily Mail every now and again. Um, and otherwise, I'm just trying to make it in America.
Just trying to stay alive and pay my rent.
Yes.
I hear you on that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and just like chit chatting about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard because it's just been the most mind boggling case. And I freaking love you. Literally, I had the worst hangover of my life on Monday from our fun outing on Sunday, but I love getting into trouble with you. By the way, Kiki has great dive bar recommendations that she won't share with anyone because they're way too good to share with the world. But anyway, tell everyone where to find you.
You can find me on TikTok or Instagram at the Talk of Shame.
And everyone, please go follow the Talk of Shame. You won't regret it. It's the one follow that I can guarantee you will not regret. Kiki, thank you so much for coming on, and I am sure I will talk to you very soon.
Thank you.
Bye.